Well, next I want to turn to the issue of how Western governments go about countering radicalization and Islamist extremism. Let's bring in one of the main experts in America on this issue. Tara Malla is from the Counter Extremism Project. Tara, thank you very much for your time on Outside Source today. We appreciate it. If you look at the methods that are most effective at countering extremism within the context of Western countries, what would they be?
Sure. One of the things we've seen is that groups like ISIS have been extremely successful in getting their message out online. So part of combating this extremist ideology is actually taking the battle online. Part of what my organization does is trying to pressure technology companies to get this content off their platforms. Content that is inspiring lone wolf attacks by radicalizing people, content like the Anwar al-Awlaki videos that appear on YouTube in the tens of thousands, and content that violates the terms of service. So we've been doing a lot of work to promote technology that can be used to prevent the upload of a lot of this terrorist content and get it off these platforms. And then there are more traditional, counter-narrative programs, counter-messaging programs, and other types of de-radicalization agendas that the State Department here in the United States works on. And those are all complementary efforts. But we really think that part of this battle is about fighting them online, not just in Raqqa, not just in Mosul. Even when we gain back territory, that's not going to be enough in this type of ideological battle.
But that's interesting. So your emphasis is on the communication while someone may be being radicalized rather than simply identifying them when they've already been radicalized.
Well, one of the things that we've been seeing, at least here in the United States, with a lot of these domestic cases of homegrown terrorism, the FBI has been saying that they've seen the radicalization period. They call it the flash to bang time. The time of exposure to the time of the attack is shortening. And this is because individuals, for a variety of reasons, who might be susceptible to this sort of messaging, come across this content, grasp onto the ideology. They're not part of ISIS. They're not training with ISIS. They are vulnerable, and the messaging ends up appealing to them, and then they are taking action quickly. So we believe that it's essential to get rid of a lot of this content. Across many of these cases, you see them looking at the same material, the same radicalization material. And then you also see things like Dabiq magazine, ISIS propaganda magazines, which has been calling for knife attacks. They've been calling for vehicle attacks. These are the same types of attacks we see happening by these sort of homegrown terrorist attacks here and in Europe.
I'm interested, though, that you're advocating trying to get this material off platforms we all know and use like Facebook and Google, because I might have thought that if one organization like the Islamic State group and one person who's being radicalized want to share information, they'll manage to do it online one way or another.
So that's a really good point. And yes, we're not going to be able to solve this problem and get this content down everywhere. But a lot of the times when you're talking about the communication between individuals, that's happening, you're right, on applications like Telegram or messaging services. That's usually after they've already sort of been radicalized, and that's when they're communicating to, plan an actual attack. We're talking about the material that is abundant on platforms like Twitter, abundant on platforms like Facebook, abundant on platforms like YouTube. We believe that it's not going to be a silver bullet, but there can be a lot more done to get this content down. And frankly, it's content that violates the terms of service for participating on these platforms. And while these companies have done a lot to date, and we applaud those efforts, we still think that there's a significant way to go on this, and we think that it could be a critical effort in terms of fighting ISIS online. But you're right, we're never going to get down extremist content everywhere. I will note these companies already use technology, the same technology we're proposing they use for terrorist content. They use it for child pornography, and it has made a huge impact in terms of getting child pornography off these platforms. And we think that it can be applied in the same way in the counterterrorism area.
Tara, that's exceptionally useful. Thank you very much indeed. This is Tara Malla live with us from Washington, D.C.